Hello and welcome to the Tracer Franchising Podcast, where we interview great franchisors and hear stories from franchisees. Today, we've got John Steeves from US Lawns. What I really like about this franchise is it's B2B, right? So most of the lawn franchises you hear about are residential, not these guys. That allows them to sign year-long contracts and service needed businesses, right? As I was saying earlier, your bank can't let their hedges get out of control because there's a little slump in the market, right? But somebody might pull out their lawnmower and start mowing their own lawn. So very good. It's always going to be B2B. It's huge franchise, over 200 units sold and operating, and a strong team. So, John, I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to learning more about the franchise.
Thank you so much, Josh. We really appreciate you and your opportunity to be here today.
Awesome. So, John, before we get into the franchise, let's talk about you. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, how long you've been with the franchise, and kind of how things have gone?
So I'm in my 12th year at US Lawns, right? Which is important for everyone to know. Why is that? Because I've seen and helped our franchisees on an operational perspective. I was in a leadership position for our company for many years and still am on a leadership team. And what does that mean? It's not because I'm trying to tout, leadership. It's about understanding our franchisees best and what their needs are. I started out in US Lawns as a franchise advisor, right? And how do I came to US Lawns though was really interesting. Years ago, again, 12 years ago, I got a call from our vice president who's retired, who I have much respect for. And also today, our CEO, Ken Hutchison, who, those two gentlemen brought me in, recruited me, and, showed me a value. And that value today is even stronger than it was many years ago. And what that value is showing a true brand presence through national strength, right? Our franchisees have a local commitment, and it's also showing the people that we have with what we do. Our brand is so strong. I've been so blessed over the years to understand that our franchisees are the heartbeat of what we do. They are day in and day out. They've made their life. We show them a catalyst to get them there. But again, it's our promise to them is to be there, is to be responsive and be, a friend, right? To be a friend and be a partner, that we want to make sure that we are improving their life through their community. And we want to make sure we provide things to them, such as legacy to their families, to their children, to, being a good steward of the environment. That's who we are as a brand. And we're strong in that. And that's why I'm here 12 years later. By the way, before I got into US Lawns, I have been a business owner. I have been a franchisee, franchisor, and, I worked in other areas. I'm a CFE as well. And so, the journey for our franchisees or our candidates as well has been one of quality. And that's not just not by me. Let me tell you this. I have been led by the most superior people I can imagine, right? I'm blessed to be a part of this brand. And I show that with every single person I come with and interact with, honestly, Josh.
Well, very cool. It's not too often that you have someone who's the development director who's also been a franchisee and who's also coached on the inside of the franchise, right? So you really know what it's like and who the right person is for this franchise.
Of course. What we want to make sure is that when you come into this organization, right, you want to do discovery with us. Why do you want to do that? Because you want to be educated. You want a safe space to explore what it is that you need for you and your family. That is so important. And I want to make sure that there is no pressure in our position and that our candidates, our folks looking at our brand understand that. That's so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You don't want to be sold in this process. You want to be educated because
That's
this is
right.
a life-changing decision, right? This is something that's going to be a huge part of your life for a long time. So it's important to really get all the facts around and make a good decision. Um,
Absolutely.
okay, cool. So let's dive into US Lawns, right? So could you kind of give us an overview of what US Lawns does and what the day-to-day looks like for a franchisee?
Sure, I'll go through this and, just stop me if you want a clarification, right? So we were established in 86, right? We started in 87 franchising, right? We're in Florida. We've been there ever since. And right, we've got 225 locations and we are a award-winning franchisor, right? Number one in landscaping franchise by Franchise Times. And, we have been given accolades in lawn and landscape over many years. And I think that's something to focus on. And we are 100% commercial, right? We are looking for commercial properties in many of the verticals, which I'll get to in a minute. But we are a higher revenue per property, right? Overall, and we do annualized contracts. Well, what does that mean? In our FDD, you'll see 66% of our revenues are reoccurring, which is contract maintenance. That's the core of what we do. That keeps the lights on. That gives you what you need to gather for your business to keep stability moving forward, right? The remaining percentage of that is really to generate additional profit, from those customers that are high margin. Those are typically 50 to 55% plus margin on those items such as your irrigation, your agronomics, right? Now, beyond that, you're looking at enhancement opportunities on the side of, beautification, and you're looking for, irrigation as well. So, and also too, we're very much recession resistant. We have been through it for many years, and we help our franchisees get through any economic turmoil that could come around, right? We were still working during COVID. And not to mention that, time in our lives that was not, not the greatest, but I will tell you that our franchisees did very well. We showed them government programs. We were able to maneuver that very well. So if we can get through that, we are, in a very good spot. Don't you agree?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, anyone who I think can push through COVID, and you guys have been around since, like you said, the '70s. So you've not only it's not just COVID, right? You've been
86.
through '86. Sorry, the '80s.
No, you're good.
Then or you've been through 9/11, which was a huge impact on the economy, as well as '08. So
Right.
it's not just COVID, right? Um, there's a lot more that you guys can prove, and I'm sure they can talk to franchisees who've been through those things.
100%.
Um,
And we were
mhm.
through programs too, by the way. During that time, we were again, our leadership really did a great job. And I give that credit to Ken Hutchison, our CEO of Everest Brands, who ensured that our franchisees knew how to maneuver. And he did a very nice job along with our vice president at the time, Mike Fitzpatrick, who is, tremendous at what he did. And, our leadership is always on tune with helping our franchisees understand how to navigate tough waters. And that's what we do with our support. We're very proud of our support, by the way.
Yeah, and I think just to tell a little story about that, right? So the during what people don't realize, they're like, oh well, if I was a business owner, I can maybe figure these things out myself. And it's like during times of turmoil, you are so much more sucked into the business, right? Because you're gonna have people calling you and be like, I can't pay for this, and you're like, okay, well, can we do terms? Can we maybe give you a discount for this month? Can we maybe skip a month? So you're now figuring out things that only you as the owner can figure out. And now that takes you away from being able to make bigger strategic decisions. But if you have a franchisor who's saying, "Okay, what's the best thing that these, 200 plus people can do to keep their business running?" Well, that's a huge benefit that an average owner just wouldn't have, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
We stay close to our owners, right? Our model is really about staying close to the customer, which is in our case, our customer is our franchisee, but also we encourage our franchisees to stay close to their customer, but also the employees to have a full circle ability to run their business successfully, right? That's what we teach. We teach close to customers, close to employees, close to home, close to community, right? That's who we are. And through that balance of those items, that's what we do best. And, again, we're very again, I say this a lot, but we're very proud of that. And in my experience, if we're not proud of something, we shouldn't be doing what we're doing, but we do a great job with it. And I'll say that one more time.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so the next thing is okay. So what US Lawns does is a mix of maintenance, beautification. It sounds like it's anything that's outside. Um, you hit a few items. Is there any other services that you want to hit that US Lawns does? Anything that might be right? I imagine maybe in Florida might be different than upstate New York, right? Maybe one does with snow,
100%.
maybe one doesn't. So like what else do you guys do that might be regional dependent?
Okay, sure. Let's talk about 2 different regions, right? You have your northern region, right, which does snow. You have your southern region, which does not. So you have 2 different markets. Let's talk about the northern markets that have snow. Those typically are a 8 to 9-month contract situation, right, of green. Green means landscape services. In those services, right, you have let me be very clear on what those services are from landscape, right? The green services mowing, edging, weeding, right? Tree care up to 12 feet, pruning, trash pickup, and trimming, right? That's what is on. And by the way, that's for both north and southern markets, right? Then on the northern markets, again, 4-month contracts on the snow side, which are then, again, very lucrative for folks. So we're 12-month in both markets, by the way. We're not just green, we are also white. Again, in our industry, that means snow and ice removal. White is snow and ice removal. And again, our franchisees in the northern markets, seasonal markets, see a great profitability on that side of it. And some folks don't realize that US Lawns is also snow. And again, we're very proud of that side of it as well, snow and ice management. On the southern markets, you have 12 months. And those 12 months, when you're not in season for those 8 to 9 months, you're doing enhancement projects, right? You keep that machine moving. And again, those enhancement projects from irrigation, right, to fertilization, pest control, and seasonal color changes, things that are done, really beautification, those items are, again, above 50% margin on those. And we're, again, 100% focused on ensuring our franchisees understand the seasonality of the business. And we are trained and ready to go on how to make them successful.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so now we have a really good understanding of what US Lawns can offer to customers throughout the year. But what does that mean for the franchisee? Right? Are they the ones doing stuff? Are they hiring? Are they training? Are they selling? There's a million things that you could be doing in a business. So where do you see most franchisees spending their time?
So we want our franchisees to understand, number one, that they are not working in the business, they're working on the business. We don't want folks to make sure they are 100% focused on generating relationships in the community, right? That they are working on building their teams, right? And they are understanding the fact that they are leading their entire organization, right? With our support, right? So let's talk a little bit about our sales support. So our franchisees, number one, their world is making sure that they are delivering the positivity of environmental care and landscape care to their customers, right? How are they doing that? So US Lawns has a centralized sales support model, right? Which is very unique. And that helps franchisees deliver, not only revenue to themselves, but exposure in their markets. We're there to generate sales and opportunities to the franchisees through highly trained in-house prospecting. Well, what does that mean? That means that we are going to be there to set appointments for our franchisees from a sales perspective. We book those directly, right? They're not responsible for them from at least a 20. We break this up into two folds. I'll get into that in a minute. But they are 25% of their leads that they get are booked directly through us from a sales highly trained team out of Orlando, right? That's a shared service that we have, right? That we're ongoing basis that we are guaranteeing appointments to our franchisees. And what's important about that is those guaranteed appointments mean that our franchisees are having coordination with their schedules, right? We're reaching out to market, right? In verticals we know that have a sales cycle that's appropriate for them in their zip codes, right? That we are booking those appointments, and if they're not successful, we are going to give them back to them, right? We stand behind each and every appointment that we do. And that's big, and what we believe is really revolutionizing our value to our franchisees, right? So that's one. So they also typically will have a sales professional they will hire. We require that based on our success and our knowledge base of what they need to have. And so, beyond that, again, let's look back from a higher level at this point. We want to make sure they are leading teams, they're on their sales focus, they're ramping quickly, and they're profitable quickly. Right? That's what they do to start. We set them up very well. From the day they start with us, they are paired up with someone who will get them onboarded, right? Onboarded effectively from their business entity, their insurance, their technology, right? Their overall, presence within their digital marketing side. Right? So they start out very quickly with us. They ramp quickly, they get onboarded quickly, and they see contracts typically within 30 to 45 days. So that's what we do well. So that's how they start out. And I know that's probably a brief explanation of what we do, but it's a very valid way to, answer your question. Hope you think the same way.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, let's split it into sales and operations, right? So we've hit
Sure.
most of sales, right? So
Sure.
25% comes from you all who are, I mean, that's honestly, I've never heard anyone who does B2B where there's a centralized, because that's outbound calling, right? Like I've heard people like, they've had call centers that'll pick up calls, but not do outbound, right? So that's very cool. But what's the other 75%?
The other 75% really is about the owner and or their person they are hiring. Their individual, right, who is a sales professional, which is a business developer. That's what we call a business developer, right? So the owner will always take about 10% of managing relationships or, those marquee properties, et cetera. But, that salesperson they hire is brought on, right, and trained by the owner and us together, right? We offer that sales support side. By the way, monthly. We have sales boot camps every month, and by the way, we also have a sales coach, right? So again, let me be very clear in this. We have when you come on board with us, centralized sales support is 25%. You mentioned that. Thank you for saying that. The other 75% is a combination of us delivering world-class support for you as a franchisee to be successful in delivering a person that is a sales professional to the market, but also understanding you don't have to have understanding of sales or the franchising side and or the landscape side, the green side to be successful. We do all that for you, right? We make sure that you feel good about where you're at, and we deliver that support, daily coaching when you come on board with our sales support, Norm Nicholas, who is 100% amazing at what he does. He's lifted off many, many franchisees for us very successfully. But then also the sales boot camps, the monthly calls that we have, virtual support, in-person support. Again, very proud of that as well. World class.
Okay, so they're trained up, or they've hired a salesperson trained up. But I mean, what are they physically doing? Are they walking into businesses? Is there like a place where people submit bids for commercials, and you guys just have to like log on to that database? You know what I mean? Very granularly. If I wanted to go get a contract to do this for someone for 12 months, like what am I doing to get that?
Of course. Okay. So yeah, of course. We train you on the side of going into just say this. If you were going to go out and we were to set an appointment for you and you would go out and just be a part of the community. You walk into a apartment community, right? Just say, for example, or a hotel. You'd walk in. We've either set the appointment for you or we've coached you on how to walk in and what to say, right? We would then once we had that conversation, we would then ascertain how to move forward with that property, right? Based on their needs assessment, right? Once we have that information, we would then go into our, you know, AI software, right? Which we are very forward on this side of it. We're moving very much forward on the side of AI and technology. Our technology does very much when you put in an address, right? You have a long ago were the wheels that you used to push to measure property, right? We don't do that any longer. That's the mom and pop side of it that we don't do, right? That's what separates us from, you know, what that used to look like, what I used to do back in the day. For today, you input an address, you've got AI, it tells you information such as bed lines and you know, the, gravel beds to mulch beds to tree rings to, soft edges to hard edges, right? And that's put in technology, right? So all of that from the start, you do less today because of technology that we have employed to giving that customer a amazing proposal and how that looks like to them, which is a clean, precise, accurate, and that delivers a product today that wasn't given before, and it's not given by any of our competitors to my knowledge.
Okay, very cool. So the bidding process makes it where you don't have to be an absolute expert and you don't have to spend all day measuring properties, right?
Correct.
Um, and so going back to the sales part, and I know a lot of people kind of like edge around this question because it seems like if I tell people that they have to cold walk into businesses, then they don't want to do it. But what I tell people is that's the if you want to go and build a huge business that is 100% reliant on you, like that's the kind of business you want, right? Where because you can walk in to 5 if you wanna, if you because you're scared, right, and you don't have it in you, or you could go in and walk into 100 businesses that day and get 20 quotes scheduled. So, um, it sounds like this is probably a lot of networking as well, where it's like, hey, you're at Chamber of Commerce, you're at BNI's, you're at whatever, and it's like, oh, well, so and so has been complaining about how their lawn guys are doing a terrible job, so I'll tell them about you. But it also sounds like I can just, you know, be like, I'm really good at, my first 3 jobs that I got from the franchisor were all property managers. So I'm gonna go and knock on all the property managers in my entire city and be like, "Hey, I do these 3 other guys. I should do it for you too." Right? And I can just get after it. Is that accurate?
That is, I think our franchisees, the people that we look for in ideal candidates, right? I think that's kind of what you're going for. And that number one is that we want folks who want to shake a hand, right? Folks that, if you want to build something that's bigger than yourself, right? You want to build something that is generational, right? You've got to be wanting to go shake a hand of your fellow person next to you. And if you don't want to get to know them, that's not probably something that, we're going to look for, but it's something you probably need to develop on your own side, right? We want you to be able to shake a hand. And I think so many of our franchisees do such a great job at that. And it's not something that it's something I talk about all the time when it comes to my candidate calls, with our franchisees, if they're able to walk into a place and just shake a hand and say, I'm here for you, and they believe in what they do. And it's just universal, right? It's not just not just you as lawns, right? But it's any other concept you want to apply that to. But I'll be selfish in this. We teach you how to walk in and shake a hand. And if you're not great at that, we'll help you get there, right? And I think that's the important part. We want you to be able to develop a team, right? It's not just shaking a hand, but it's beyond that too. It's all about leading people and changing lives. If that makes sense as well, Josh.
Yeah. 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 Because you don't wanna be I mean, if you're selling forever, right, then you're never gonna go past a certain size, right? So you have to be able to build a team around you.
And,
Um
and we show you how to be genuine too, by the way. So I think all of us need to understand something. If you go into this and you don't believe in what you sell, right? You're never going to be successful. US Lawns does a great job, excellent job at showing you how to believe in what we sell and showing you how to execute. So that way we're full service at that point.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, if you can confidently walk in and be like, "I'm gonna do better than whoever you have now because we are the best," right, and you believe that, it's gonna be a lot easier to, to get that, because you don't want a miscongruence between what you're saying and what reality is, right?
Yep.
So I think that's a good segue into operations. So are these employees? Are they subcontractors? How are you finding, whatever they are? Like, let's talk a little bit about the ops.
Sure thing. This is my realm. So let's go in this. So number one, we are W-2 employees, right? That we show you how to recruit, right? We show you from a digital presence, from a um, educational perspective from their advisors, right? And by the way, every franchisee is assigned an advisor who are tremendously talented, right? So they're not alone in any of this journey, right? So from a digital presence from our marketing team, right, to a operational presence from our advisors and beyond, we do an awesome job on that side of it. And I'll say that again. Our team is many, 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 many decades of experience together, and we're proud of that. So when I look at a perspective of how our franchisees, find employees, right? We also have partnerships from very qualified, negotiated contracts we have, such as, two different firms cross country. I'm not going to reveal who they are, but I will say that we have two different programs that we employ from, which is again for non-domestic workers and domestic workers. You got to have a blend between both of them. But we all know that coming into this business that there are, in most businesses, there's non-domestic and domestic workers. We do everything above bar. Number one, we have H-2B, which is a visa program that our franchisees utilize very successfully. We also have another program, which is a more long-term. By the way, H-2B is a seasonal. Typically, that's a 8-month, 6 to 8 month contract with the government, right, who brings in workers, non-domestic. And then you have EB3, which is a longer-term permanent visa program, both of which we are very in tune with, right? And any business owner should know this, that we have to make sure that we are in this climate that we're in, we have to make sure we have multiple streams of employment options, right? We bring in people from all aspects. We do it very legally, very correctly. We've always done that. We don't go outside that scope. Period. Right? So we show you how to do it. Paperwork's done for you, and that's how we bring people in. And that's seasonal, right? Both the northern and southern markets, and we do that quite well.
Okay. So it sounds like you have a very thorough way, multiple ways to find employees here. Um,
Yes, sir.
and I think that might be, that was literally my first question when you said it was W-2 employees and you immediately answered it. So you must get that all the time. Uh,
I do.
uh,
I do. Yes. We do not outsource. By the way, part of that though, like I said, about 90%, we do some subcontracting. We're not going to, steer away from that, but that's typically for, different mulch jobs, tree services, right? That's not direct core services. We do our W-2 employees do core services for our business, which is about 90% of what we do.
yeah. Yeah. And that, I mean, that in itself, I think, if I was an owner of a property and you said, no, these are my guys and I'm going to make sure that they come back if something's wrong, right? I'm the one leading them. I'm the one, whatever. I think that might make me feel a little bit better. Then it's like, oh, I'll go find some subcontractors, right? So that's cool. Okay. So, let's talk now, scale, right? So as you scale, are owners picking whether they want to be on the ops side or the sales side? Are they replacing themselves on both sides relatively quickly? Like, what does it take from an operations perspective to scale the business?
Well, first and foremost, it's we look at our owners' abilities, right? Our average gross sales are about 1.4 million, a little bit shy thereof for 24, item 19, right? So if you look at our average gross sales per territory, and I think that's number one, it all depends on acumen of the person. What do they need to do? What are their goals? Right? Our largest territory is about 9.3 million, right? That's in Boise, Idaho. Very talented individual. And we have a conglomerate in Charlotte, which is, in that 20 plus million. And I will tell you that, different acumens on different sides, it all depends on what the goals of the franchisee may be. And its scalability comes through the right sales activity, comes through the right operations activity, and it comes through listening, right? We have a proven model, and that proven model really does, lend to different situations. And we want to make sure our franchisees they're supported, that we understand their goals, right? We understand their what they want to take home and what their family needs are. And so that could be, again, I may not be answering your question directly, but it depends on the person itself. And that's what I want to get to is that we will tailor our our model to what the franchisee wants, but there are minimum requirements. Don't get me wrong. But what is really important is that, folks understand that they don't have to be a $20 million operator to make good money at US Lawns. They can be in between and do really, really well for them and their family.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, and I think that's the benefit and why I tend to lean towards franchises that have uh such a long track record is because these newer guys are like, yeah, we're pretty sure you can get to 10-20 million dollars with our brand, but we've only been around for 5 years, so nobody's done it. I'd rather go to a brand where I know it's possible because somebody else has done it. It just makes more sense. So okay, awesome, awesome. All right, so scale's obviously possible, and there's plenty of people doing it under the leadership there at US Lawns. Okay. So now we have a good idea of how you get customers. We have a good idea of the operations, right? What's happening day to day. And so now it should tell us to be who's the right fit, right? Who's the one that can actually accomplish all these things?
Sure. That's so our ideal candidates are someone who wants to follow a process, right? We're proven, right? We know how to essentially go through any question you could have on landscape side, franchising side, right? We don't want someone who wants to recreate the wheel because we've already done it. Okay. Please be willing to listen at least your first year or two. And then we don't mind a little bit of, off the cuff things, right? That makes sense, right? Business in different markets yield different results. We're always open to listen, but what we don't do not do, we don't waver on our ability to emphasize our brand standards. That's not negotiable. But we want somebody also who is driven to succeed, right? We want them to understand that, we're here for them and they're here for us. We're both in tangent in in step with that, right? We don't want someone who wants to work in their business. We don't want that person. We want them working on it, leading teams, leading people and building relationships. Right. That's who we want. We want someone who's also, let's go a little bit financial, right? And I'll do this. Our requirements are this. You must have at least 50K liquid, right? And I will tell you your net worth needs to be worth about 250K. And so, beyond that, we can have some conversation and work through, what we need to work through.
Okay. So, I mean, and it's really, if you're looking at franchising in general and you don't want to follow a playbook, you should stop looking at franchising. So, um,
Yeah.
okay, it makes sense. It makes sense. Great. All right. So now we know who's a great owner, what you all do. Now let's say someone's interested, right? Take us through how are they going to learn about US Lawns, and if they decide to move forward, what's their training and initial support that first year going to look like?
Perfect. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about this. This is again, you're getting my wheelhouse here, so thank you. I will say this. Number one, our marketing team is world class, right? We're shared services with the way we look at support, right? We're proactive, we're targeted, we do digital assets, right? We do email campaigns, we do trade shows, right? We set those things up for you. If you were to start with us and you were going to sign today, right? You'd be immediately thrust into a 2.5 to 3 week process, which starts up your business entity. How do you get started, right? You order your truck, you get your insurance, you get your technology set up, right? We we will ensure that, you have some basic understanding of the what you're going to be servicing, right? Because we believe in a culture of training, right? That leads you into and again, I'm only giving you a high level view, right? There's much more to this than that. But then once we get into the new franchise training in Orlando, you're with us for 5 days. You're going to have some, day one, you're looking at who our leaders of our company are, well seasoned, 40 plus years in the franchising world, right? Our CEO Ken Hutchison does an amazing job at, showing you the journey, right? And, the afternoon looks like, you start to your business planning. What does your business plan look like for the first 12 months? What's it look like for the first 18 months? Right. You then go to a franchisee the next morning on Tuesday and you understand, what it feels like to be a franchisee, right? What it feels like to show operations. Our franchisee in Brevard County does a very, very nice job of operational efficiency, and they're a large branch, so our franchisees get to see what it is to live that life in the morning, right? Then we go out to training in the field with the crews. Wednesday then goes into marketing in the morning. How do I get my plan done? What do I do? What does my digital presence look like? What do I need to do to maneuver to be most successful? Afternoon is all sales support. Thursday is very much technology, right? How do I employ my LMN technology, my AI technology to be successful? And then we have Friday is our role play and our, celebration of the franchisee. Then you're the following Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're in market with you. We're hand in hand with you selling contracts,
Oh,
right?
wow.
From appointments that we have sold for you going into it, right? So we've already set this up. We've teed this up, Josh. We have got them appointments, 10 appointments in their market for our franchise advisor to go sell with them hand in hand in their market. We've set those appointments, part of our program. So that's pretty cool,
Yeah, that's
right?
that's really cool. So they go to those. Um, all right, I'll let you keep going. I've got some questions now, but go ahead.
Yeah, let's keep going because I get excited about this. Can you tell?
Yeah.
So, so we go into, by the way, we do 5 additional visits with you beside that first sales visit in the first 12 months. In that
You come
first
out
12
wait,
months,
you come out 5 separate times?
yeah, 6
Do you
times.
does the franchisee pay for it?
No, no, we
That's
do that.
awesome. That's
Yeah,
great.
that's us in your market. We're there with you hand in hand. Business planning, sales support. By the way, when you sell your first contract, guess where? We're there too. We're there in your market. We have a gentleman who does an amazing job at coming out and showing you how to get the job done. Not just we help sell it, then we're there to help you in your market get lifted off the ground to be the most efficient you can be. And we show you how to do it from your equipment to how to do the stripes in your lawn, to the lawns in those, to how to talk to that customer. We're there for you. Pretty
Wow.
cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Um, okay. Is there anything else you wanna hit before I start asking some questions?
No, let's go with your questions.
Okay. Um, so part of startup is I need equipment because 'cause they're not subcontractors, right? Um,
Correct.
do I have to buy equipment through you guys? Do you have buying programs where I get, cheaper than if I went to Home Depot? Like, what does that look like?
Such a great question. So, number one, so we have amazing partnerships that we've negotiated right over time. I will tell you, my friend Dan Dorn over at Exmark Toro, and I have friends over at John Deere. Right, we're talking about we're number one. We're talking about equipment. You buy your major purchases, right? Which is a mower that looks like a 3642. Somewhere in that realm, right? That they're financed, right? You can either do financing or leasing options. You have 2 of those. But our partnerships, going back to my comment about, Mr. Dan Dorn and Exmartoro, you know, they've been relations with us that we have leverage over. So if you don't buy with us, you can't go anywhere else to get it cheaper because we've negotiated these very, very deeply. And we have the relationship that, if you have something going on, that's is troubling you in your business, we step in and help with that rep, with that brand, and we will get you through it. Right. That's the power of the network, right?
Oh,
It's the power of franchising.
yep.
We negotiate those things. We do it well. So
Great.
deep discounts and support.
Okay. Great. So that's the equipment piece, and the last piece is I've sold, you guys have come out, you've helped me, we've sold some contracts. how am I? Are you all helping me find employees right away? Like, what's the steps? Because am I hiring employees knowing I'm going to sell, or do I sell first and then hire employees for the jobs? Like, what's that timeline?
Okay. So essentially when you start on board with us, we're always thinking about how do you hire? And just like selling a contract to a apartment community or equivalent, right? You always had to think about, hey, what's next with my people? Because people run this business as well. So we are helping you post job ads right from the beginning, right? Let's harvest what we can find, right? We have networks to do that. We have executive recruiters, depending on which avenue you're going. If that could be owner operator, right, or it could be investor model, right? We have both of those two segments covered, and we will help you from a digital presence. How do we recruit? Here's your steps. Here's what we do. Right. And again, we consult with you very closely on what that looks like for you in the timeline. We don't want to, what we don't do is overextend you from a capital perspective on that investment. Right. We don't want you hiring too early and we don't want you hiring too late. So that's what our support team does very, very effectively. If that makes sense. There's no perfect answer to your question. What we
Y-
do is make sure that we are timely in what we do for you so you're not burning cash.
Yep, yep. Makes sense. Are these guys are they full time or are they part time?
100% W-2. I mentioned before earlier, it really is about making sure that we are equipped to bring in at least 90% of our workforce, which is again W-2. And again, subcontracting may look like things like your irrigation, may look like your agronomics, may look like some mulch jobs, pine straw jobs in the south. We 100%, will look at that and say, "Hey, should you handle this? Okay. If not, hey, what can we make on margin to outsource this job, right? And still make good money to be profitable, to put money in your pocket, right?
Yeah. I
But
meant
90%,
like your W-2 employees. Are they full time employees or are they part time employees?
no, they are 100% full-time employees. And there's seasonality to that. And I think that may be what you're asking for, if that makes
Uh,
sense. Is that what you're asking for, Josh?
no. I just didn't know if like the average guy, you only have 20 hours of work for him a week. But I mean, if you have 40 hours of work for somebody, that's that's a big deal from like the business that I own is part time. And the number one reason why people leave us is because they found someone that'll give them 40 hours a week, right? Um, because we can only give them 10 or 15. So yeah, that's what I was getting at, right? So I'll
Yeah.
let you kind of comment on that.
Okay. So we're responsible employers, number one. Okay. Let's just be square on that. We are not like some other brands out there, and especially in the commercial space. Well, I don't want to say the word dupes, but I'm going to say it. We are upfront and honest with our people, right? We want to see them we do downsizing typically in the southern markets between, months of November and March, right? But we take care of our people from a perspective of they know where they're going to stand with us. And those folks are full-time employees during the months, typically of April 1st to, again, generally speaking, to November 1st, right? If you're excellent in what you do, you're going to be carried on, especially northern markets, to do some snow removal. In the southern markets, while we do downsize some, there is opportunity for enhancement jobs and other things. So if you're a good performer with us and you're well respected, you show up daily and you do your job properly and you're respectful, you're going to have a 12-month job.
Awesome. I think that's um something that people don't appreciate being able to offer full time employment, at least to your top guys, until you can't do it, right?
Well, and,
Uh,
and we show you how, and we show what's effective in that too. We just
mhm.
don't, we just don't say, "Hey, here's what you should do." Our franchise advisors do a great job of saying, "Okay, let's look at this holistically, effectively, and from a profitable standpoint." Right? We have to always be profitable. What we look at, everything we do has got to be in the mindset of efficiency and productivity, and profitability.
Mhm, mhm. Great, great. Okay, so now we know, and I mean, I think this is the basics of franchising, right? If I'm the right person with the right support and the right training, and I'm willing to do the things that it takes to scale the business, then you just go and you execute, right? So I really like where we've gone so far, but let's talk a little bit about the leadership of the franchise and the franchisor and, even above them, right? So can you talk to us a little bit about who's leading the franchise?
So RJ Crone is our brand leader who does an amazing job. He was brought into our team in March of this past year, and he's delivering change in our brand, right? He's delivering efficiency, he's delivering opportunity, honesty, right? And he's also understanding that our franchisees have a voice. And our franchisees, let me tell you something, he's done a very nice job when it comes to listening to our franchise advisory council, right? Of understanding their needs to navigating some really tough challenges, that franchisees have. We don't shy away from our franchisees who have great opinions and those who want to express, opinions that are, you know, moving forward. Like we listen. And that's a point of leadership. Our leadership listens, right? I will also tell you above him, you have, someone like David Wells. David Wells has been in franchising for decades, right? He's our vice president of brand development. Does an amazing job for our all of our teams to be cohesive. And I can't speak enough about it. You even heard me mention it a couple times now by Ken Hutchison. And Ken has been in U.S. Lawns, for since I believe Ken came in the mid '90s, right? But Ken, if I did you disservice, I promise you I'm not trying to do that. But many many decades, my friend, and has a leadership ability that is unmatched by anything I've seen in the past. His vision for what we're doing and moving us forward as a brand is tremendous. And so I can't speak, more highly of what we're doing, and we're being fresh. Let me tell you this: while many of us have been in for many years, we're taking a different approach to being fresh in how we understand technology, right? Which is big. Again, let me say this: our even though we've been here a long time, one thing that we try to do very well, and especially moving forward, right? None of us have made 100% of the best choices in the past. But what we do is understand where we've been, where we're going, and what the future is. So I think we're very much in perspective there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds like a tremendous leadership team that's focused on the future, right? They're not just kind of like sitting on their
I couldn't
laurels.
be more proud. I never thought I'd work for someone again, and I'll say this very openly. I came back to, I've had my own businesses for years, and I came back into U.S. Lawns in 2014, and I've never looked anywhere else because I believe in this brand. I never thought I could work for anybody else. But when I have seen the people that we interact with each day, I'm very blessed to be a part of this organization.
Very cool. Very cool. And then, the other thing that I like about this is part of the Eversmith brand platform, right? Is if you, kind of max out your area, right? Like I live in Denver. If I wanted to go to the next major area, I'd either have to go over the mountains to Salt Lake City, right? I'd have to
Okay.
go through the
Yep.
desert to Phoenix, or I'd have to, I mean, there's nothing north of us really, right? Or I'm going over to like Kansas City or Texas or something. So the
Right.
only thing that makes sense to me would be like, okay, well, I've maxed out Denver. Let me go and get another brand, right? That has synergies. And that's what
100%.
you guys have, right? You guys have these other things underneath Eversmith that, um, if I own US Lawns, I like them, I trust them, right? And I just go to them and go, hey, what's available and what's makes sense. And it's easy for me to kind of bolt that on and start to create a
Sure.
platform. Um, so I like that as well. And I think that's a major pro. And then also the reason that you guys can afford, the leadership that you have is because you have more than one brand paying into their salaries. Really great people are expensive.
They are. And we let me tell you something. We have leveraged our resources tremendously, and I'm very proud of that part of you've heard me say it a couple different times. And I'm not a guy who blows smoke. But when I tell you that with our brand who's been from 2014 to now, we have moved forward very carefully and intentionally, right? With technology, with people, right? Human capital, the people we hire. I can't tell you the tremendous strength that we have with the people that we have, from our national sales teams to our marketing teams, right? Those are very special, right? Just the people that have been with US Lawns for a long time, but the new people that we brought on board, right? That's very powerful. And thanks for mentioning that. So, can I take a minute to mention our other brands, part of Eversmith?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. So, we have the Seals, which is a refrigerant company. You walk into a gas station, you walk into, your local restaurant, right? Who may be around for a long time. Those gaskets, those seals on the refrigeration, right? They need to be replaced. We have a solution with the seals, right? It's awesome. Kitchen Guard, right? Is which is our restaurant hood cleaning, right? That is a underserviced market that we do a damn good job at. You know, I was, benefited to, be with a very close franchisee in the Waco, Texas market, Aaron Thompson, right? Who showed me how they do what they do. Darn impressive. I had no idea. We prevent fires. It's an amazing thing that is underserviced within the restaurant industry, commercial space.
Mhm.
US Lawns and Clintar. Clintar is our Canadian partner, which does also commercial landscape, right? And then you have, Millicare, which is our floor company, right? Anything to do with floor servicing, cleaning, maintaining, that's them, right? And Prism, which is a, disaster relief company, which basically comes in and does electronics. It does, hard surfaces. They do a great job when it comes to restoration on that front, right? And art, amazing things that they do. That's all under Riverside Capital, right? Which is well funded, right? So your investment, any investment with us, is an investment on with all of these brands, which is, you know, absolutely amazing,
Very cool,
in
very
my
cool.
opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, right? And it shows, um, thoughtfulness, right? And I think, um now I can't speak to private equity outside of franchising, right? But I think in franchising, sometimes people hear it and they get a little, it just has a bad name, which I think is, I could talk for an hour about why I don't think that's the right way to think about it. But you don't make money by, destroying brands. You make money by making them worth more than what you bought them for. Um,
Right.
and so, like, they're very much aligned to be able to tell the next person, "I've done XYZ, and it's gonna drive this much more revenue, and it's gonna allow you to take it over," because nobody wants to buy a dying asset, right? It's gonna allow you to take it over and push it even further. Um, and so I do think it's an exciting thing, especially when, there's some fly by night ones, but Riverside is not that. It might be like the
No,
the the
it's
best.
not.
Yeah, it's like one of the top private equity companies in franchising, if not the top one.
And they
Um,
care. They care. It's our managing partner has done amazing benefits for our brand. And I will tell you that they care. They push us to death, and we work absolutely hard every single day. But you know what? If you don't do that, our franchisees can't benefit,
mhm,
right?
yep.
If you don't feel that as an employee, right? If you don't feel pushed, how do our franchisees benefit? They don't. But guess what? Ours do, and they feel the push. I promise you that. And some may not like every aspect of that, but it's going to make them better. And I believe in that. And that's why I'm here today. Honestly.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's a good, just coming from the veteran perspective, right? In the Marine Corps, the things that I did in my Marines didn't always make them super happy and feel super safe. Well, they were safe, but not super. Well, I guess there were times where they weren't safe, but it was always pushing them to make them better and better at their jobs and be able to accomplish the mission more. The ability to accomplish that mission more likely, right? And so you need someone who's above you, who's pushing you forward to be better and to grow.
Yes,
Um,
sir. I think I think the mantra is always just with you saying. By the way, I'm not comparing your service, and thank you, by the way, for your service. But
Appreciate
we
it.
are all looking for that. We push together to be better.
Mhm. Yep, exactly. Okay. So, we've been pumping it up, right? So let's take a note to be objective here. There are failures, people either terminated or they cease operations. What causes a person to fail in this brand?
Well, I think that there's different acumens and different causes of life, right? I think that all of us have to be realistic. That we come in where some of us are optimistic, right? Some of us are confident, right? Some of us are going into this, situation to where, we're may have some trepidation, right? Not every acumen is the same. If you're not willing to follow a proven process and you think you know better, you're not going to do well, right? Let's just say that. That's number one. Number two, I will tell you that, that life gets in the way. So you have, in my opinion, you have some operational inconveniences. You have some, things that go on in family life. You have things that happen, that just get in the way. And you have those things that happen. We've had those along our path. And, we do our best in those situations to help those who have joined us to exit properly. Right? We do that right. We have a resale program. We have, we will walk you through all the ways to support you before you get to that, end result is unfavorable. Right. So John, let's go back to your question. So you have these failures and we have had those, right? But some of those things we can control, some of those things we cannot. Right. And that's just being very honest. Right? There's
Yeah.
no perfect answer for that, and we have a long history, so you're gonna see those along the way, but I will tell you that there's a story that's compelling on each one of those that guess what? We're good to people. If you're good to people, you work with them, you understand what their needs are, and you get through those things, and most oftentimes, we work through them. Sometimes we just can't, and that's okay. We make it
Yep.
palatable,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. And so I think it's important to talk through these because I one of the biggest things I try to dispel in terms of people's thinking is that because it's a franchise, it's easy, right? It's not easy. It's still a business, and business is hard.
Right.
Um, and so if you get in, you think things are gonna be handed to you, or you think you're gonna do things your way, um, or you think it's gonna be you're just gonna coast, right? Um, it's just not gonna work. And so I do have. I'm gonna go ahead and plug myself here. I have what's called the franchise challenge. It's free. It's on my website, and it takes people through everything from financially planning if they're ready for an investment, through what it takes personally to do this. And I've had people go through that and be like, Josh, it sounds almost like you were talking people out of owning a franchise. And it's like, well, if the things I said didn't excite you and didn't make me go, yeah, I want to do it because I want to prove that I can get through tough times and I have the energy and I have the drive and the grit to be a great business owner, then maybe you shouldn't own a business, right? Um, or you should go walk dogs, right, in your spare time. And I don't mean that disparagingly to dog walkers, right? But uh, but like it takes a special kind of person to be a successful business owner. And if you're not going to be, then whether it's U.S. Lawns or something else, then you might fail. So um, I think that's another important part to talk about. Um,
I think that's very well said. I think that is. I mean, there's nothing in this world that is easy, right? If it's easy, everybody would be doing it, and it's so cliche. However, right, if you're not willing to go through this process and understand and know where what you can manifest, right, by understanding your weaknesses, but you also have to understand how do I get there? What do I need to do with my performance? How do I make this to where I'm going to succeed? Right. Our item 19, Josh, really just and again, I'm gonna compliment you on this in this podcast. You show people how to and what the realities are. But if you're not understanding item 19, right? You're not understanding. Here's what my anticipation should be, right? And my quartiles for us. We show that, right? Here's where you should be, right? Where do you think you might be? Let's move that forward together, right? And build that plan, what it should look like for you, and then put forward the work that you committed to. Yeah, you probably should stay in W-2.
yep,
If
yep,
that makes sense, right?
yep.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. Um, okay, great. So let's wrap it up here. What is something that you want either whether you spoke about it, but you want to emphasize it or something we haven't hit yet, but what's something that you want people to walk away this franchise or excuse me, this podcast knowing?
Number 1, our brand is strong. Number 2, I will make sure that your journey is fruitful. It is no pressure. that you understand what it takes in franchising to be successful, that I'm a good partner with you and Joshua, right? That we are all in tandem and know something that Joshua is an amazing person when it comes to franchising. His experience will guide you and that we work in tandem. So we are partners in this. So beyond that, we are here for you, and I want to make sure your experience is absolutely the best it can be.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. I promise I didn't pay him to say that. Um,
No, he
it-
did not. I promise.
so, all right. Well, John, I really appreciate it. If you're listening, like I said, I've got the free franchise challenge, but I'm also can give that to you one on one. So reach out. My job is to help you get really clear on what you want and what you're good at, and then find franchises that are a great match for that, that I've personally vetted as great franchises, right? And then from there, I'll help you through the research, everything from asking the right questions, thinking through the FDD properly, speaking to franchisees, giving you financial models, and I've got videos on how do you do that properly, all the way through CPA referrals, attorneys, and getting funded. So I've got all sorts of stuff for you to help you decide if you're a great potential franchisee, and if you are, find the right franchise for you. John, thanks again for being here. I learned a lot, and I'm excited to work with you in the future.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, my friend.